Five, four, three. Hi, everybody. DUGROZ here with DUGROZ Reports. Welcome to my Saturday morning live stream. Today is Saturday, November the 2nd, 2024, and I am reporting live from my house after having some weird times and weird places the last couple weeks. We're back to normal today. So I'm really happy to have each and every one of you on board here. I see Too Easy, John R., Ian Mascal, Tom Graber, TM Cowling on board. Thank you for being here. 11 people. Please click the thumbs up button if you haven't yet. That'll drive more people to come in. Oh, hey, look, John R. comes in hot right away. A $2 super chat. Been missing in action for the last few due to travel. I'm back. Well, awesome. Glad to see you, John. Yeah, John said the different times threw him off too. Yeah, I missed 1 week entirely, and then one I had to change to evening, which I know conflict with some things. This is my time. This is where I'll keep it at most of the time. Ian says, is it me or him? Very choppy. Well, I was hoping I'd be back to normal. Now that I'm at my home studio, I'm back on regular wired cable. What am I trying to say? Fiber optic network. So I'll just keep going. If other people are having problems, speak up. Otherwise, we'll just assume it's a you thing, Ian. I'm just giving you a hard time. All right. Well, as usual, let's go ahead and dive in head first to our DUGROZ data points. This is any sort of information from the world of points, miles, cashback, travel, sometimes just things that are on my mind and I either really like or annoy me. The first thing is just a note here. There is a 20% transfer bonus going on right now. This is only the second day of the month, so a lot of new transfer things as of yesterday. From Capital One to British Airways Avios. So I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that. This is not as appealing for me personally as it once was. You could do the British cheap American trick. Unfortunately, that went up. That devalued about 30%, at least in the example that I would tend to use. But there are some other use cases, like, you could move your money to British and then move it to Iberia and book East Coast to Madrid in Spain. And I think that's like 37.5 in business class or something like that. So if you know of a good use case for this one, just speak up and let us all know. Another data point here. This one had me far more excited. Choice Privileges, the hotel, Choice Hotels, implementing changes and improvements coming next year in 2025. And the biggest one is that award bookings will be available 50 weeks out, so almost a full year. One of the big checks in the negative column for Choice Hotels had been you can only book them a maximum of 100 days in advance, which is roughly 3 months. Now it's 50 weeks, so almost a full year, which I think this is great. There's a potential downside that they're going to start charging a different rate for suites than standard rooms. That was kind of an old hack in the past, but I think the ability to book them almost a year out far outweighs that. That's my opinion. So I'm really excited about that. I told Matt Clausen not too long ago I need to give him a hat tip because he often alerts me to things that he knows I would be interested in, and this is one I'm interested in because I've used Citi and Wells Fargo points on Choice before, including in Sweden, well, this is a little different, but indirectly booking I Prefer hotels. He messaged me, so hat tip to him, and I responded something like, I keep trying to get out away from Choice and they keep reeling me back in. So first, I said Choice, I meant Citi. First, Citi, announces I Prefer as a direct transfer partner. We got some bugs to work out there, but I think it has potential. And then this, and of course you can go 1 to 2 from Citi to Choice, is another reason to pull me back in. So I've been saying Citigroup has to do some things to impress me between now and the end of the year to keep me on board. They didn't do this, but they got lucky. This one kind of impresses me. Catching up on my comments, Manuel Jimenez says, good morning, everyone. I'm back from Europe, being there for 3 weeks. Awesome. John's putting chili in the crock pot. Let's see. So if you see someone that has a star by the name, that means they're a channel supporter, a DUGROZ diehard. It's my one and only membership level. $3 a month, cancel anytime. What do you get? Well, you get early access to videos, and probably most important, I do have member-only videos. There's 32 of them now that only members are allowed to watch, and these are the more spicy subjects. I got another early release coming up this week that the members will get to watch a day or two before everyone else. K1DCat is here. Mojo is here. Too Easy says, I was able to get a targeted offer on Bilt last night. 100% match from Bilt to British Airlines. Transferred $40K for a total of $80K. Amazing. Well, that's interesting. Matt is here and says, Citi could still disappoint. They're experts at that. That's true. But hey, I'll take baby steps in the right direction. That'll make me think about it more at least. Next, DUGROZ data point. So this was just playing catch up on some old information. About 3 weeks ago, I published a video doing the point total breakdown of my trip to Washington, D.C. this past summer. And those of you who watched that will remember at the end of the video, I had about $240 that was unaccounted for because my goal is to always have travel pay for itself. So if I have expenses I can't cover directly with points, I either have to cash out points, I have to use like my Aeroplan trick or something like that. So I published a shorts video. Just go out, look for my shorts here of how I finally polished that off. And if you want to have a little spoiler here, I cashed out Wells Fargo business rewards. So I have the Wells Fargo Signify, hit the sign-up bonus on that not too long ago and cashed out $258.46 as cash. I did make a small mistake in that I meant to put it in my Wells Fargo checking account, but I accidentally applied it as a statement credit to the card. Oh, well, money is fungible. So that just basically means money that I would have used for home stuff, I can now transfer over to travel. So it's functionally the same thing, but I have now covered 100% of my Washington, D.C. big annual trip expenses from last year. I would like to mention there are 28 people on board. Only 8 have hit the like button. So 20 people have the chance to hit the like button, and it's totally free, supports my channel. And then YouTube will go, oh, other people need to see this video. Look how many people are liking it. So I would appreciate that. Xavier ID has arrived. He's a big-time diehard. Matt Clausen says, Wells Fargo sent me another Signify offer, same public offer, but take a shot. In other words, could you get 2 Signifies? There's only one way to find out. As you often say, Matt, be the data point you want to see. So at the very beginning, before the chat even started, Too Easy asked me, do you think U.S. Bank will really discontinue applications for the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve? I'm seeing a lot of people going crazy on Reddit based on Stan's recent post. I'm going to cough. And then Riffraff EH is also here. Good to see you, Riffraff. I can't remember if we met or not. Glad to have you on board. Also asked, do you think the U.S. bar is about to get canceled? I only have one data point. It was a comment I saw in one of Stan's videos. I mean to call my local U.S. bank and ask them what they know. I just haven't got around to it yet, so I don't know. It'll be a sad day if they close that to new applications. It'll be a devastating day if they cancel it altogether. Next, DUGROZ data point. Moving on here. This is a picture. For those of you who haven't been following along at home, I went to Springfield, Illinois last weekend to see the home of Abraham Lincoln, the grave of Abraham Lincoln, a cool park, tour the Capitol building, and I can come back to that if you like. But I flew from Des Moines to St. Louis, just a one-way flight on Southwest, rented a car, drove to Springfield about 2 hours. This is a picture I took in line waiting to come back from St. Louis to Des Moines on Southwest Airlines. And I'm going to talk a little bit here about Southwest and what I don't like about how they do their seating. I know some people like it, but not to put anyone down, just observations I've made on more than one occasion. I think senior citizens and people who English isn't their first language get really confused by Southwest's open seating policy. I think it's quite difficult for them. So in this picture here, you'll notice there's a lady right here with the plaid and the tennis shoes and the purple suitcase. This lady was a senior citizen, I'm guessing mid to late 70s. I'm just speculating. And when they called for boarding and said, we're going to do a pre-boarding, and if you're in the A groups, you can line up, you could tell she was just really confused and lost. And she went up and stood behind the left side of the A group, and these two ladies in front of her were trying to be helpful and talk to her. And she showed them her ticket. She said, I don't know where to go. And her ticket was B something, like B14 or something like that. And they explained to her as best they could, like, this is the A group, so this line is going to go, and then the line on the right's going to go, and then they'll call for B to line up, and that's when you can line up. So if you want to just hang out here, you can, or you can go back to your seat. You're not going to lose your place. You know, they explained how it worked. And just no matter how hard they tried, she just didn't get it. She thought she had to stand in line right behind the A group. She cut in line between the first half of the A group and the second half of the A group and basically just went with them. I could look over her shoulder and see the ticket, so I know she was in the B group. I don't think she was trying to cheat the system. I just think for whatever reason, it just didn't resonate. So for me, in addition to really liking corn, I am definitely on board with Southwest changes for having assigned seating. Now, I did mention last week, I asked a flight attendant who was sitting nearby what that's going to look like. And she said her speculation is they'll still have open seating for the most basic fares, want to get away. But if it's want to get away plus or higher, then you'll have an assigned seat. That was the speculation. I'm in favor of it. I don't like how people kind of like get up there and cram in. On my flight from Des Moines to St. Louis, I actually saw a guy cut just a little bit. It was like when they called for the B group, I think he was like B12, but he got in front of somebody who was like B5 or 7. And I'm like, don't be a jerk, people. So I say scrap it all and just go with assigned seating. I have a love-hate with Southwest. They have flights that go to the places I need and want to go. And this was only like a 1-hour flight, so I just dealt with it. But I just don't like this whole setup. Ian says Southwest is the worst. Can't wait for assigned seating. Thomas Hapuk is here, a diehard. Thanks for being on board. Says good morning. And Southwest must have the least efficient method of boarding a plane. They claim it's more efficient. I don't know who's right and who's wrong. Next data point, this was just an observation. So on the way back to St. Louis, I stopped in Alton, Illinois. That's kind of just on the Illinois side of the river from St. Louis at a restaurant I've been to a couple times before that I really like called the Bluff City Grill. Would recommend. And notice they now have a sign out that says paying cash, you get a 3% discount. Well, this is just a fancy way of saying if you're paying with a credit card, we're going to charge you 3% more. Now, I will give them credit. They had a big, obvious sign right when you came in, so you could see it up front. So I appreciate that. I don't like places that spring it on you at the last second after you've already eaten, because although I probably wouldn't, you should have the option to walk away. And then just to show that it really did happen, here's my receipt. So on the right in the back, you'll see this is the receipt you get before they run your credit card. It was $16.83. And then once they ran the credit card, it was $17.33. So about 3% more. Is 3% more devastating? No, not really. I still paid with a credit card. I still left a very reasonable and somewhat generous tip. But it's just a trend I'm seeing more and more. But yeah, it was worth it. Here's the hamburger I had, actually cheeseburger. It was so good, and that's why I want to keep coming back. Get the fries if you ever go there. Bluff City Grill, Alton, Illinois, just across the river from St. Louis on your way to the Lambert Airport if you're coming from anywhere east. It comes with potato chips, but for like $1 or $2, you can upgrade potato chips to fries. I would definitely recommend that. Dip your fries in some ranch. The fries are homemade. They're thick, but not too thick. So yes, now I'm making everyone hungry. Yuri G is here. Hi, Yuri says, I like Southwest, was always flying them when I was living near the hub. Beruderly. I am so sorry I mispronounced your name. Bruderly. Bruderly. Good to see you, Bruderly. Don't think we've met. Yeah, it's horse poop when restaurants pull that nonsense. Ian says tipping is the biggest scam ever. Yeah, but what are you going to do? Yuri G said, I also had a companion pass for 4 years. It was a blast. You know, if I flew Southwest with a companion, I would, but the only times I've ever flown them, I've flown alone. I guess there's one exception. I went with my brother-in-law to Las Vegas one time. let's keep moving along. Next DUGROZ data point here. And I think I mentioned this last week. I just don't remember for sure. When I rented a car, I did go with Hertz. And because of the Capital One Venture X, I have President's Circle, which enables me to skip the line. There's my name, Rose D, right there. So just pointing that out. And I did hear Miles to Memories pointed out that Capital One has renewed their President's Circle membership with Hertz. There was some talk for a while that it had not been renewed or might be going away in 2025, but we're going to have it for at least one more year. So I like skipping the line whenever possible. 15 people on board, 41 people on board. Only 15 have clicked the thumbs up button. So well over 20 people still have the opportunity to click thumbs up and tell YouTube, hey, everybody, come watch this. TM Cowling agrees that eating French fries with ranch is the best. It totally is. A lot of people say it's the best, and they're right. Next, I'm just going to make you a little bit hungry here. This is the breakfast that I had at the Abraham Lincoln Hotel, which is a Hilton DoubleTree in Springfield. And this was one of my breakfasts. We had biscuits and gravy. It was the same type of biscuits and gravy that I had. I don't know if you remember that, Xavier, down at the Hyatt in NOLA, New Orleans. And I was hoping it would be, and it was. I like it. It's not too spicy, but just a little bit spicy. So why am I sharing this picture other than just to brag and make you hungry? I printed off my statement here that I got at the end just to make sure. And they gave me $30 per day in food and beverage credits, even though I was by myself. Well, why is that? When I booked the hotel room, I put my wife's name on the reservation along with me. So they saw 2 people on the reservation. And when I showed up, I didn't ask. I didn't try to trick anyone. The clerk just said, since you have a reservation for 2, you'll be getting $30 a day in food and beverage credits. And sure enough, I did. So now, don't get me wrong. It's important to be honest. If someone asked me directly, are 2 people staying in your room this weekend? I would have said no. Originally, we'd considered it, but I'm traveling alone. But no one ever asked. They just gave me the $30 instead of the $15. In other words, it's $15 per person up to 2 people. I guess always put 2 people on your reservation because maybe they'll just give you 2 people's worth of food and beverage credits. So my strategy was twofold. One is I ate breakfast every day. And I asked a clarification when I arrived, because I arrived on, technically you would have 4 days because you'd eat breakfast on the day you check out if you eat supper on the day you arrive. So 3-night stay, but the first night I ate supper, and then on the checkout night, which is after the final night, that would be 4 meals. And they said, we will only give you 3 days worth of food and beverage credit, so it's up to you how you want to play that. And I just decided the first night just to pay out of pocket. But I didn't really pay out of pocket. I used a Hilton gift card, which I don't have with me. I actually threw it away. And that worked really well. So I know a lot of people have had pain points on Hilton gift cards. This was interesting. So at the restaurant inside the DoubleTree, the waiter did a great job. And I didn't even ask when the thing came to pay with. I just put my Hilton gift card in that little folio where it sticks out the edge. And he went back, and it was not very busy. There was like 3 people in the whole restaurant. And he was like 8 feet behind me. And I heard him swipe the card twice. And then just a little bit of like he wasn't sure what to do. But I think you just run it exactly the same way you run a credit card, and it just worked. And then he brought me back a slip like you with credit card. You write in your tip with a pen. And I wasn't sure if that was going to work because when I got back to my room, I checked my balance and the tip had not been taken off. But like a day or 2 later, it updated, the tip had been taken off. So I made sure that the price plus tip was exactly $30. So I knew I would have $20 left. And then the last night I stayed, I paid with my gift card and said, please run this first. It was the same waiter. He did a great job. I think he was from somewhere in Eastern Europe. He had what I would describe as like a Ukrainian or Belarus or Polish accent, something along those lines, but I never asked him. Great job. And I said, run this first, then run my Aeroplan card second, because I was like, well, it's either going to be dining or travel. So I'm either going to get 5X, temporary dining promotion, or I'm going to be able to pay myself back. It coded as dining, which is fine. But I used the entire $50 gift card in that way. So I think like those of you who are in New Orleans remember how like we went to the Roosevelt Hilton and the restaurant, and I asked the waiter, "Do you take Hilton gift cards?" He said, "No." I bet they do. He just didn't want to bother with it. So just ask or just put in a little thing, see what happens. So ultimately, it came out too. It's probably kind of hard to see, but my only out of pocket expense that was paid directly to the DoubleTree was $13.50, and that went on my Aeroplan card. So boom, I'll pay myself back. Oh, where were we? Matt Clausen says Hertz President Circle currently has no expiration, they claim. Sure, there is one behind the scenes, even if it's 10 years. They're just not announcing it. Too Easy says, I just status match and do the merry-go-round with the car status, nothing too difficult. Yeah, that's probably true. I matched from Hertz to Enterprise, got their top status. Xavier ID said, and I'm assuming this is about the biscuits and gravy in New Orleans, and it was great. It was. Yuri G says, Amex Business Platinum extended Dell credit till June 30th, but it's not clear what will happen after that. Interesting. Very interesting. Ian says, hotel biscuits gravies are always the same because it's frozen sausage patties ground with cream and flour, frozen biscuits just baked. This one was better, whatever that's worth. Yuri, I'm not going to read your comment. We are not a political channel here. All right. This is completely random. This has nothing to do with points and miles. Just I thought it was funny. A picture from Taco Bell. Raise your hand if you eat Taco Bell. I admit it. I like Taco Bell. I know I shouldn't. I went to Taco Bell, and the cash register said, please use kiosk. You know, they have one of those places where, like, you punch the buttons and order yourself, which I'm totally fine with. It just struck me as kind of hilarious. Like, this is a borderline jerk way of saying, a human being's not going to help you, plebeian. Go push the buttons yourself. Who do you think we are? I don't know. I thought that was funny and worth sharing. Please use kiosk. All right, next DUGROZ data point here. Bank of Springfield Center, that top line. This is for my Venture X, $14. Story time. So at the, excuse me, I have to snort or cough. At the hotel in Springfield, Illinois. It was attached to a parking garage, but the parking garage was not run by the hotel. The like sports arena right next door, like a basketball arena, probably some minor league basketball team, was called the Bank of Springfield Center, but they had an elevator that went directly to the hotel from there. And on the night I checked in, what they told me to do is anytime you pull in, just take a ticket. Like you push a button, it gives you a ticket, and then as you leave, you scan the ticket, and it lets you out. Or you can walk up to a kiosk and handle it that way. So I did that the first night. The second night, I left and came back. And when I came back Sunday evening, I pushed the button to get a ticket, and nothing came out. It just made a noise like, Grr! And then the gate opened. So I'm like, what do I do? So I just went ahead and drove on in. And I told the hotel front desk person, he said, yeah, their ticket printer runs out of paper sometimes. So just call ahead when you're ready to check out. And that was Sunday, but I wasn't checking out till Tuesday, so it'd be 2 days. It's supposed to be $7 per day. The first day I just paid with a credit card. I didn't know what to do when I checked out. So I allowed a little extra time. I went to the front desk. I said, hey, they told me to come early. And they said, yeah, we can't help you. It's owned separately. So just push the button for help. There's like a call us button when you leave. So I did. And I got, your stereotypical unmotivated, probably person who sits in a little booth somewhere who hates their job type employee. And she was like, service, how can I help? And I said, hello, when I pulled in on Sunday night, your ticket printing machine was out of paper, so it let me in but didn't give me a ticket. She's like, okay, what time did you arrive? And I said, I arrived, I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 8. And she's like, okay. So do you see a button on the screen that says lost ticket? Yeah, just push that. Now, I had explored that in advance. I knew that was $25. And I said, wait a minute, I didn't have a lost ticket, though. Your machine wouldn't print one. Yeah, it's the same thing. Just push the lost ticket button. And I said, how much is that going to charge me? And she said, $25. And I said, I shouldn't have to pay that. And she said, well, that's our procedure if you don't have a ticket. And I said, let me clarify. Again, I did not lose my ticket. Your machine malfunctioned and did not print a ticket. And the desk clerk told me that had been happening all night. So your company is aware of this problem. And she said, no, that's just our policy. No matter what, you have to pay the lost ticket fee. And I got a little ornery and I said, let me get this straight. So if your equipment malfunctions through no fault of my own, I'm expected to pay almost double. Is that what I'm hearing you tell me? I wanted to make her say it. She said, it was almost like this. Please hold. And then it went into silence or hold music for like 30 seconds. And then the screen popped up with $14. She said, does the total on the screen look correct? And I said, yes. Okay, please pay. And then she hung up. So I twisted her arm enough. I got the correct amount. I only had to pay $14 instead of $25. And I was kind of pleased with myself because I feel like in this game, the Points and Miles game, you learn a whole additional skill set of customer service negotiations. Now, this is probably also because I did work in straight up customer service for almost 6 years, and I currently work in a role where it's sort of like a hybrid between processing and customer service. But I know how to talk to people, and I know when it's time to be friendly and when it's time to be factual and when it's time to ratchet things up just a little bit. So if somebody says, just push the button to pay extra, no, no, no. Make sure you push back appropriately and think ahead what you might say and have a response ready to go. Another lesson I can learn from this, and I should have learned from it, is document the crap out of everything. So what I should have done is when the machine didn't print a ticket but told me to proceed anyway, I should have taken a time-stamped photo. So when she said, what time did you arrive? I could have said, I arrived at 6:42 p.m. on this exact date. So just a little PSA for everyone there. Chad Pennycuff has arrived, a big-time diehard. Hi, Chad. Luke's Points and Miles says, what's up, Doug? Hey, Luke, how you doing? Glad to see you. Thanks for being here and supporting the channel. All right, how about another DUGROZ data point here? 25 people have the ability to click the thumbs up who have not yet done so. So please do that if you've not yet done so. This is from a screenshot of my Capital One Venture X. And this is the cover purchases screen, or sometimes they call it the travel eraser, where if you book travel on the card, you can then go in and erase that travel to penny per point. And we know it's a penny per point because like this Hertz one, $284 would be 28,400 points. So yeah, that's what it is. So leading up to my trip, I'd explored a couple different options for rental cars. I was considering driving all the way to Springfield, so I was going to rent a car here in Des Moines. That's what this first one was. I canceled that. I booked 3 different rental cars, Hertz, Dollar, and Alamo. This was the Alamo one. Ended up canceling that and going directly with Hertz instead of through the Capital Portal. Canceled that one. But what I found interesting was even after I canceled a transaction and got a refund, I still have the option to travel erase. So this is a way that you could, in theory, at your own risk, do your own research, as Sledge would say, you could cash out your Capital One points, book some sort of refundable travel through their portal, wait a few days till it posts, cancel it, you get your refund, then you could go in and travel erase for a penny per point. So if you want a way to cash out Capital One points at a penny each, even though you have a Venture X, which technically you can't cash out, that's a way you could do it. Or like what I might do is, I always account for every single penny. So on any given trip, maybe I haven't done my accounting for New Orleans or Springfield yet. If I need some slush fund, I might go in and this is the one that I actually use. So I might cancel one of these so that I have some cash to offset the trip expenses. Just something to think through. Source King. I don't think we've met Source King. How you doing? I've got between $18,000 and $20,000 in dental work coming up. Oh my. I had to pay like $700 last year, and I thought that was a lot. I'm not interested in business cards. The only card I have is the CSP. Got that 5 years ago. Suggestions? Oh boy. I could do a whole video about this, Source Kings. I don't think there's a way you can go wrong, but I don't know what kind of travel you like. I don't know if you're into cash back, those kind of things. First thought was the American Express Business Platinum, but you said you're not into business cards. So what I would say, pick your two favorite hotel cards, whatever they are, and go for those. They probably can either do them in multiple payments or something like that. But yeah, definitely get at least 2 sign-up bonuses there. How about the Capital One Venture X? That's a good card, and you're absolutely going to get positive value in the first year. Chad Pennyguff also suggests jump on the U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve the next week or so before it goes away. A lot of people think it's going to go away. I haven't verified yet, but a lot of people are saying that. And you can tap to pay at your dentist if they have it, and you'll get 4.5% cash back effectively on travel. Yuri says he does it every time. Me too. My dentist has Apple Pay, so I'm good with that. Ian says $20K, get the platinum business. No reason to not be into business cards. Lewis, hey, don't think we've met, Lewis. Glad to have you on board. Says, man, it's just crazy the altitude reserve's going away. Apparently, while traveling, I've missed some data points because I only saw that one data point of some random dude commenting on one of Stan's videos. I need to go through and watch every single minute of Stan the Credit Frog's videos. Sorry, Stan. I'll catch up. I'm a little behind on that. Next DUGROZ data point here. We're getting towards the end. Have you heard about the DoorDash credit on the CSR? I have. So when I was in Springfield, I got some Cold Stone Creamery. And what was interesting is it was pickup, so I didn't have to tip for the delivery. It was $9.65, and they credited me up to $10. I'm not sure if it's coding Cold Stone Creamery as a non-food place like grocery, or if maybe I had $5 left over from the previous month. Does anybody know if it rolls over if you don't use it? Matt, you still on board? Seems like the kind of thing you would know. But anyway, I got some free Cold Stone Creamery. It was the only place within washing distance. You know what I did? I ate it in front of a historic building there in Springfield, the old Capitol building. I just sat right there and ate my ice cream and looked at a historical thing. Does life get much better than that? Not much. Ian says, still no real data on the U.S. bar. Stan did an expanded post last night. Do you mean like a community tab post? Of the day before, he says he's still going off rumors, but feels strongly he needs to present it. TM Kelly says it rolls over up to 3 months. Matt says your restaurant credit rolls over. Tui said I tried 7-Eleven on the CSP, but have yet to get that credit. Huh. Luke also says up to 3 months. Matt says 4 now. So yeah, that was really good. When I was a kid, I would take my birthday cake and mash it up into my ice cream, and that's what it tasted like. I guess this is the food episode. What do I have here? This is a screenshot from Travelocity, which is one of your many, standard booking sites. When I booked that rental car with Dollar, I kept it as a backup. You know why I kept it as a backup? Because there was one time I went to rent a car and they literally ran out of cars and I was kind of screwed. So I don't always do this, but I frequently will book a pay at the counter, no commitment, don't put in my account number or anything, just random backup car rental. And that's what I did here. So Travelocity, it says here, cancellation no-show policy, free cancellation. And as it relates to no-show, you will not be charged anything since the booking was risk-free. So if you're into booking backup rental cars, might I suggest Travelocity, because if you no-show, nothing happens. Do you think there's an ethical dilemma about booking a backup rental car? I feel like the rental car industry does it on purpose, where they overbook or they wouldn't do this. So if they had exactly 20 cars available and only took 20 reservations, you wouldn't have such a thing as a risk-free backup. So I feel like if they're going to play silly games, I'm going to play their silly game also. It's like that old Seinfeld episode where he's like, it's clear that you're good at taking the reservation. Your problem is with holding the reservation. Source King says, I was really hoping to turn it into some aspirational travel. My best understanding is that US Bank might not be the best option for that. If by aspirational you mean gigantic outsized value, you're right. Matt Clausen says, the grocery is the monthly use it or lose it promotion tab, supposedly where restaurant is going. Chad Pennycuff says, if aspirational equals international, that's not great. Will work for cruises and things charged in US dollars. Thomas Hapuk says, no bigger ethical dilemma than not selling a rental you don't have. Exactly. Matt Clausen says, U.S. Bank card names keep in mind moving forward, Voyager and Fusion. Well, maybe they're doing some stuff. Okay, where was I? I've only got 2 left before we get into our main event here. So this is a picture from an Amtrak reservation. So I flew into St. Louis and got a rental car and drove to Springfield. But my original plan was to take Amtrak from St. Louis to Springfield. And I would have been looking at this down here, 8:10 a.m., $23. There was a couple things that made that tough. One is I would have had to take the St. Louis Metro from the airport to downtown, which probably, 7 o'clock in the morning is fairly safe. But, I'd have to bring a donut on the Metro, and I'm not sure how that would have gone. But then more importantly, I started thinking about it. I was like, okay, this was a rip trip, rental, in, plane, 3 days. I was there. Well, I arrived Friday night, but you almost can't count that. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and the first half of Tuesday. So 3.5 days. So I found a website where you can look up historical Amtrak times to see how behind schedule they are or aren't. And here's what I found for this exact route, searching the last 6 months. Do you see these statistics? So that day it was on time, 1 hour, 9 minutes late, 9 hours and 4 minutes late, 59 minutes late, 2 hours, 41 minutes late, on time, 2 hours, 12 minutes. Oh, and then we had 5 days in a row of on time. This route only goes like every 3 days or something like that. Hour and a half, 6 minutes, 2 hours, almost 10 hours. And I'm like, no, I need to. If I blew an entire day of my 3.5-day weekend getaway waiting for Amtrak, I would have been torqued. So I'm like, I'm not going to risk it. What experience do you guys have with Amtrak? I guess I feel like knowing they have reliability issues. I took them one other time where it was like an hour and a half late, and somebody told me, yeah, yesterday it was 8 hours late. I'm like, what? There's no plan B. It's not like an airport where if their plane is down, they can put you on another plane. If the train's not here, it's not here. So I guess the way I look at it is, if Amtrak is the main focus of your journey, you just want the joy of a train ride, sure, go for it. But if it's like, I need to be in this town somewhere between noon and 5 o'clock, I guess you have to avoid it. Let's see. So we're talking about the Flex Perks card with US Bank, and it's dead. I actually had the Flex Perks Gold at one point. Matt says, Flex Perk is deader than a Norwegian Blue being brought back to a British pet shop. I don't know what that means, but it sounds disturbing. Flex Perks is dead. Altitude may be dying. There's new products on the way. Chad Pennycuff says, my family likes doing Ann Arbor to Chicago and Amtrak just for the train ride experience. Yeah, and if you like the train ride experience, I've done Amtrak twice and enjoyed the experience. They're both short trips. One was about an hour. One was about 3 or 4 hours each way. Enjoyable. But yeah, if it's something where I wanted to make sure I'm in town by a certain time, it's not a good choice. Matt was referencing Monty Python jokes. Sorry, I didn't pick up on that. All right, everyone. Thank you for humoring me with my DUGROZ data points. Do you know what time it is, folks? Do you know what time it is now? It is time for the theme of the day. Before I dive into that, though, again, 20 people have bandwidth to click the like button, so please do that. Much like John did at the very beginning of the video, you can drop me a super chat, just a buck or two. If you can't afford $2, look at super stickers. Those are usually only $1. Any amount helps, goes towards my technology fund. I have enough money now to get a new webcam and a new microphone. I just haven't got around to it yet. That'll probably be closer to Christmas. So thank you for those who have helped contribute to that. The lion's share of anything I get goes back into this channel for technology. I don't have enough money for a new phone yet, so I'm still using my iPhone SE 2nd generation, which is the equivalent of an 8S, if you're wondering. So I'm a little behind the times, but I'm also the kind of guy that's like, my phone's working fine. The only reason I would upgrade it is because the pictures aren't the best. See, there's only one circle here, and I think it would be better if I had 3 circles. John's been listening in the background, and his chili is now in the crock pot. Let me blow my nose, and then we'll jump into the theme of the day. I'll show you the picture before we jump into the theme of the day so you can be figuring out what it's all about. Obviously, I shared a little bit in the title. Let's make this full screen. There we go. Mute. Uh-oh, I'm having that thing where my menu bar pops up at the bottom, and no matter what I do, I can't get it to go away. That's one thing I'm not liking about my Mac here. Muting time. All right. Go away. Does anybody know how to make the bar that pops up at the bottom of your Mac go away? Oh, wait, I think I just click on a different screen. Nope. Oh, dear. Now I lost everything. I'm still here, people. Okay, I'm just going to live with it. Tom Graber says, $5 super chat. Thank you, Tom. I really appreciate that. Celebrate, celebrate. And John, I forgot. Celebrate, celebrate. Thank you so much. Ian Mascal says, I thought that was bad with a 12. I'm not sure what you're referencing. Let's see. We can chat about the Mac later, says Brian. Oh, hey, how you doing, Brian? All right. I'm available for lunch later today, if you're wondering. I said it wrong. All right. My Dorothy voice. Amex, Hawaiian, Alaska, oh my. Amex, Hawaiian, Alaska, oh my. Amex, Hawaiian, Alaska, oh my. So, that's like lions and tigers and bears, oh my. Get it? So you probably know there was a merger not too long ago where the Department of Transportation finally approved Hawaiian Airlines and Alaska to merge, although Alaska's the big daddy in this merger. Hawaiian is the one getting more absorbed, is my understanding. Amex is a transfer partner of Hawaiian. Alaska does not have any credit card transfer partners. But right now, and I think this was one of the terms the Department of Labor kind of leaned on them or dropped an elbow on, is like, you got to allow your points to transfer one-to-one, or we're going to sue you, or at least wag a finger at you. And they're like, okay, fine. So at least as long as the current contract is in force, you can transfer your points from Amex to Hawaiian, Hawaiian to Alaska. Oh my. So functionally, in a roundabout way, we are in a very special dispensation right now where Alaska points can come over from Amex. So let's talk about last week. Some of you were here, some of you were not here. This is sort of like a part 2 video. So last week I talked about how am I going to play this game? How am I going to dive into this whole Amex, Hawaii, Alaska pipeline? It's confusing because one is called Hawaiian Airlines, like it's possessive, but the other one is just Alaska Airlines. It's not Alaskan Airlines. Bear with me a moment. Review. The hills are alive, I guess. So you might remember I talked about Captain Von Trapp from The Sound of Music and him singing, and my wife was watching The Sound of Music, and I thought, Austria. And then I remembered that Austria is actually my homeland forever. I am at least 1/8 Austrian on my grandma's side of the family, my dad's mom. And they are from this little province that's at the far westernmost peninsula here of Austria called Vorarlberg, or Vorarlberg, because you have to pronounce the super dour voice. And here's Germany over here. And even though Germany and Austria are two different countries, they speak the same language. They're kind of close to each other. And I went too far. Even if, I were to say, take Austria, and this is kind of see-through and kind of, let's see if I get to line up here. They're right about like that. So, how do I measure? So, yeah, there's Frankfurt in Germany. There's Vorarlberg. It's only about 3 hours by car, 6 hours by train. Hey, I could go visit the land of my origin, even though we're talking like the 1840s or something like that. Obviously, no one that has been alive in my lifetime remembers it. But yeah, the hills are alive, I guess, with some of my ancestry. Whoa, look, K1D Cat 37. $4.99 super chat. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think you actually go by Kid Cat, but I've always been saying K1D Cat. Sorry about that. Thank you, Kid Cat. Says the Amex to Alaska backdoor has been my dumping ground for about 500,000 membership rewards. 500,000. Whoa, that's a lot. Let me catch up on comments here. Control click on the bar on the bottom. You can adjust options. Oh, okay. I'm kind of afraid to do it right now. I'm not going to worry about it right now, but I'll explore that. Chad Pennycuff says that just screams get an Amex card. Oh, yeah, I'm going to move on past that. Yuri consolidated all my Alaska and Hawaiian miles for my household. I now have around 850 Alaska miles. Well, I guess a lot of people are on the same page here. Source King says, I've had big swings in my income the last decade, so I'm on some Irish short list. I think a business card would just be additional questions. I get that. Not raising suspicion is a legitimate thing. Brian Jack says you should see if you can get a new Wicked movie to sponsor you. A Sound of Music reboot could be needed. I could do the points and miles equivalent of Sound of Music. JP says DUGROZ is headed to Hawaii and Alaska, probably the same distance from Iowa to those states as it is to Europe, probably. Kid Cat is just doing his best Spaithco impression. Awesome. Yuri says, I've been to Vorarlberg. Luke's Points and Miles says, I think that trip is a lot of Black Forest. It would be an amazing train ride. Good tip. Thanks, Luke. John R. says, I'm using Built Points to transfer to Alaska. Xavier came in and saluted me with $9.99. Thank you, Xavier. You're one of my most dedicated supporters. He's a railroad guy. Maybe he would know why Amtrak is not very reliable. I think we actually talked about that. Ian Mascal says, okay, I'm gonna move on past the card that he should get, the business card that Source King should get. If you guys want to talk about, that's fine. Yuri's waiting for another bonus from Amex to Hawaiian. I doubt there'll be any more. Ian doubts there'll be any more. TM Cowling says Sound of Music is a legit solid movie, though. All right, let's move. Still in review here. So Alaska has Condor. So you remember I was poking around with seats.aero, and I was like, I couldn't find anything I wanted. I was just struggling. There's kind of this 1 week window I have to take my family somewhere next year because of the way my son's football schedule works. They don't want you to miss practice, but the state says they have to have off, a certain week. So I'm trying to work around this. And this is not the exact day. This was just for an example, but I tried different city combinations, and I came up on both JFK and Boston to Frankfurt, and this came up, operated by Condor. And I'm like, what is Condor? I'd literally never heard of it. And 55,000 miles plus $49. Like, 55 isn't bad, but the $49 is amazing compared to like Flying Blue, which is always like $250, $300. Like, well, I need to investigate this a little more. So you'll remember we reviewed what is Condor. It's not the Concorde. Condor is an airline that's sort of like, it feels like the generic Lufthansa, but I'm sure they would be really offended if you say that because they are their own airline. They fly the Airbus A330neo for all of their transatlantic flights, which I haven't seen lots of reviews, but the few I have, people say like, oh, that's one of the quietest airplanes. It's not that big for transcon, but it is like nice and quiet and those kind of things. And the 3 or 4, I think maybe 5 different reviews and videos I've watched, everyone has talked about it positively. I mean, it's not super fancy, but it's perfectly cromulent. And then I reviewed, hey, I've got a family of 4, so 55,000 points times 4, that would be 220,000. Where do I go with this? Xavier mentioning Amtrak says it's probably because it's federally or government owned. Ian says 75K Starlit is an option for me with Alaska. Starlux. I don't know anything about Starlux whatsoever. Luke says I would not fly Condor. No, thank you. But that picture looks nice. If you have data points, please share them. Because like I said, I've only found like 5. Scott Saul has arrived. How you doing, Scott? It's been a minute or two since I've seen you. Good morning from Southern California. So glad to have you on board. Ian Mascal says, Especially with new saver availability on Virgin to London, connect from there. I think it's 21K or something. Mm, we'll see, but there's something about a direct flight too. Let's see here. For Frankfurt, you got to do Singapore with Aeroplan. It's unreal. I did look for that after you suggested it, Luke. Unfortunately, the 5 or 6 days that I have as an option, there just wasn't any. I'm sorry. Taxes will kill you if you fly to London. Starlux is Seattle to TPE. I don't know what TPE is. Fill me in. All right. So in review, so here's what I've done so far to make this happen at least one way. Mrs. DUGROZ, player 2, moved over 70,000 miles, and myself, Mr. DUGROZ, I moved over 152,000. Now you might be thinking, but Doug, 150 plus 70 is 220. Why'd you throw in the extra 2,000? I think I was just slightly paranoid because I was afraid, like, oh, what if it's off slightly? I'll need more. Later, I decided that was kind of dumb, but that was my initial thought. Just throw in 2,000 extra miles just in case. And then I was going to combine them because I'd heard Frequent Miler talking about how, yeah, within Hawaii, you can combine miles from player 1 to player 2, or really anyone, vice versa. Can I combine points? Oops, I forgot one important thing. So I went to do the sharing, and it said at least 2,000 miles must be shared with a recipient who's not a primary Hawaiian Miles credit card or debit card holder. I'm like, what does that mean? Because I tried to do a test of 1,000 miles, and then I clicked on the little link to the terms and conditions, and it says sharing for free is available if you have one of our credit cards. There's also this check card and Japanese card holders, but that's only available to residents of Hawaii or Japan. So for me, it would have to be a credit card, one of the Barclay issued cards. And I'm like, oh, poop, did I make a mistake? So the review was, well, I guess at least one of us is getting a Hawaiian card, or maybe both of us getting cards. I'm trying to stay under 524, so I went for the business card, which was 50,000 miles after spending $4,000. Mrs. DUGROZ, this was before the end of last month. This was before October 31st. Went for the personal card, which at the time was 70,000 Hawaiian miles, and all you had to do was make a single purchase. Well, what happened with that? All right, now we're ready for the new info. That's where we left off last week. Let me get with comments. Then I will also catch up. Okay. So Ian says that the huge fees to London are not an issue now. I always thought the huge fees were flying from the United Kingdom to somewhere else, not flying into them. So I'll do some poking around. I haven't committed fully. Yuri says, I have some SQ miles stuck in my account. I want to use them for SQ from JFK to Fra. Is that Singapore? Xavier asks if Alaskan miles expire. I don't know. Does anybody know? Yuri says, I got the Hawaiian business card and I shared for free. So yeah, then Yuri. So what we were wondering is a couple things. Do both the recipient and the sender have to have the card? Just the sender, just the recipient? And the conclusion I reached was, I think it's just the recipient, but it might be either one. So what happened? Well, we applied, and if you look at mine, it says, Dear Douglas Rose, thank you for your application to the Hawaiian Airlines Bank of Hawaii credit card. We have reviewed your application, determined we are unable to approve you for the following reasons. The number of bank cards opened within the last 24 months. Now, you might be wondering, is that the real reason? Well, I called reconsideration like a good boy, like we're supposed to. And the representative got all my info, put me on hold, said, let me look into this. Because I'm thinking, like, did they have an address wrong? You know, did I mistype my social security by a digit? Did I type in Doug instead of Douglas, or some really minor thing that they could just correct over the phone? And she said, nope, you're denied. Hard stop, full denial, go away. We don't want you. And she said, yeah, it's really just because of the number of cards that you've opened in the last 24 or so months. And just with that, our underwriting system, I apologize, I wouldn't be able to change that. There's nothing we can do. You know, we would encourage you to wait about 3 to 4 months and then try again. Of course, they're going to say that. And I asked a few questions in a very polite way. And I said, like, you mentioned 24 months. Does Barclays have a either firm rule or guideline? She's like, well, don't concentrate on the 24 months too much. It was almost like she accidentally said 24 months. She said, we take the overall amount of cards you have and the new applications into consideration. Now, if you're wondering, I'm at 624 right now. Like in February, I'll drop to 524, and then like last day of May, I'll drop down to 524. I looked around a little, and some people speculate that Barclays has an unannounced 524 or 624 type rule. And it's like the representative almost let the cat out of the bag, but didn't quite. And then I also asked, I said, why is it called the Bank of Hawaii card? She's like, it's issued by us. You don't have to be a resident of Hawaii. It's just a marketing thing. Okay. Now, Mrs. DUGROZ, Deborah's her name, got approved instantly for the personal card. Hasn't arrived in the mail yet, so I haven't been able to make my one purchase yet, but so we're taking some steps in the right direction. Yuri says, Barclays called me the Saturday at the meetup in New Orleans, and I was sitting at the Caesar Steakhouse when they approved me. Interesting. Ian says TPE is Taiwan, so we're talking Frankfurt to Taiwan. Yuri says that only the recipient or the sender has to have a card to send for free. JP says Virgin Atlantic is now the cheapest deal to Europe. The fees are $250 for business class flying into London, double the fees flying out. Thank you. How long do you think that's going to last? Double Animal Fries says, anyone worried about Alaska devaluation in the wake of these Hawaiian transfers? For those who rely more on Alaska on the West Coast, it's a bigger concern. Yeah, that is a valid question. I'm going to come back to what you asked, JP, about Virgin Atlantic. So I'm in the Midwest. I'm not on either coast, and I dislike repositioning flights, and I will do them only if it's such a great deal that I absolutely have to. If you tack a Delta flight on, like say Delta to Atlanta, Des Moines to Atlanta, and then Atlanta on to London, how does that affect the points things? Would it still be down in that 20-30 range? Yuri says, yes, Barclays has a 624 rule. She wouldn't admit it, but sounds right. Luke says, I've always heard Barclays was 624. Well, that means I only have to wait till like March, and then I'll drop under. Ian says, the last few months, Virgin will slowly move into Delta values. Okay, yeah, I heard that. I think Frequent Miler announced they're going to be having gigantic fees in the future. Matt says, Alaska can't devalue until the timeline established with the Department of Transportation. Luke says, you can book a positioning flight with it. It's still a good deal. Probably $50K, though. Interesting. Okay. I would be more interested in, like, a flight where I could, even if I have to pay more points, make it part of one booking so I don't have to worry about, like, say Delta goes down, but Virgin is still open. Double Animal Fry says, thanks, Matt. Good info. Yuri needs to wait another year to be approved. Luke says, I looked at Columbus to JFK to London. Okay, that's good. JP says, I believe only for flying on Virgin for that low deal. Chad Pennycuff says, Barclays canceled me twice for getting the card when they had the Apple Store card at 0%. I'd get the card paid off just before 0% expired and then canceled because I only used it for Apple. John R. is saying, good morning to some people. All right. So I will look into Virgin Atlantic. But back to the story. So that's what happened when we applied. All right. So then something I did, since I had some points in my account, but my wife and I hadn't been able to combine yet, I went ahead and did a test transfer of 5,000 points to Alaska from my Hawaiian account. It was not instantaneous. There's like a special link on points.com you have to use. Frequent Miler has an article that links directly to it if you're wondering. And it worked. It took an overnight cycle, like I did it around 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and it showed up the next morning around 8 o'clock. Not instantaneous, but it did work. And that was before Player 2's new card kicked in. Now, we haven't got the card yet, but then I was thinking, oh, man, what if I need this right now? What if I can't combine my points with Players 2? Because it's not like the second you open the card, that point sharing ability appears. It takes a little while. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to move over another 68,000 from Amex to my Hawaiian account in case I could not combine Players 2 with mine in time. Because that Condor Flight I had my eye open on, like I'd heard some data points, those kind of come and go. So I moved another 68,000 over. And you might be wondering, why 68,000? Well, instead of 70,000. Well, remember how I sent over the extra 2,000 because I was paranoid. I was like, that's dumb. Let's just round it off. But like 2 hours later, so like 2 hours after I transferred more points from Amex to Hawaiian, Hawaiian Airlines recognized that my wife had the card and started allowing free transfers, because when I click on transfers and I type in an amount, it would pop up a message that said like, good news, you won't be charged. So I went ahead and did that. I moved the 70,000 points over, and it says, good news, because you're a Hawaiian Airlines MasterCard card holder, there's no charge for this transaction. So it does not have to be the recipient. If only the sender has the card, you're still okay. And I'd prefer for all to end up in my name rather than hers, because I'll do the booking. She hates calling places. I don't love it, but I'm willing to. If something goes wrong with the reservation, we need to make a change, it'll be a lot easier to have it in my name for the whole booking. So now I have 5,000 sitting in Alaska, 285 sitting in Hawaiian. So if you think of them combined, that last move of being able to merge our miles together was just last night, late last night. So I haven't actually sent them all over to Alaska. That's on my to-do list for today. I have 290,000 Alaska-Hawaii miles, which is enough to cover the 220,000 I need for the Condor flights if I decide to go that route. Plus, I have 70 points left over. I would again remind everyone to click. But wait, what is this? MSP Minneapolis? So Thursday evening, after I was poking around on seats.aero, I tried a few more combinations, and I looked at a world map on, I don't remember. There's that website that shows you like every single flight route in the entire world. And I saw a line going from Frankfurt, Germany to Minneapolis when I had Condor selection. I'm like, Condor flies to Minneapolis? So I've blocked out the date here because there's only one date available, and I don't want to tell the whole world exactly when I'm traveling. Here's a map, Des Moines, Iowa to Minneapolis. It's somewhere between 3 and 4.5 hours. Probably with bathrooms and stuff, it'd be a little over 4 hours. But yeah, there was availability for 4 people or more. 55, 49, same as before. And I'm like, I could do the whole thing with no layover and no repositioning flight. Do you know how happy that would make my family? I know in this game we talk about like repositioning flights are no big deals, but my wife and kids they do not like layovers at all. I'm more okay with it, but they're like, just get me there. And you got to keep the family happy. You got to have husband and dad points to succeed in this game, in addition to credit card points and miles. But wait, there's even more. I can come back on the exact same route. I can go from Frankfurt to Minneapolis direct using American to book that Condor flight. And it's the same number of points, a little more dollars because you're originating in the European Union, 193. But this is an option. And I'm like, this is perfect. And I'm just like, you just know, I feel like something's going to go wrong here, because it's like that 3 or 4 day window to leave, that 2-day window to come back, it hits the dates perfectly. But if I go to Minneapolis instead of Boston, there's only like one date that works each. So it might be tight, might be real tight. So, what is the value here? I just did a quick search using my Capital One app to see what kind of value we're talking about. If I paid for it out of pocket, $1,626 per person. That's actually pretty cheap for business class, but it depends on the day. Other days were up to like $3,400. So on the low end, we're talking 2.9 cents per point. I mean, it's weird that we would complain about that, but for international business class flights, that's not that great. Maybe that's why they're kind of like the generic Lufthansa. On the high end, that's 6.1 cents per point. So that's very respectable. On the return trip, I saw a little less, even $14.62. That comes out to 2.3 cents per point, which is less impressive. So I've got a couple thoughts about how I could play this. Maybe book the way there with points, find an alternative way like the business platinum portal, and then I would earn some points. But when I did the calculation, Even if I did that and calculated in what I would earn by crediting it back to Alaska, it's only like 1.8 cents per point. So even though 2.3 is not super impressive, it's still a better value using a portal. So here's the question I have for you, the viewers. Do I go all in here and move 440,000 total? Now, I would need 150,000 more Amex points over. Or if I wait until player two's card comes in the mail, make that one purchase, 70,000 would be credited. I would only need 80,000 more moved over. Do I do that? I'm like the girl in the picture here. I'm not sure what to do. And if I wait too long, the availability might go away. And I'm just not sure what I should do with that. So let's go over the considerations. But before I go over the considerations, I will catch up with comments here. Please click thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. Almost 25 people can do that. JP Knowledge says, test transfers are not necessary and typically can only create issues. If you didn't type in the correct information, the points won't transfer. Hashtag stop test transfers. I've heard frequent milers say that, and I'm cutting back. I'm cutting back, I promise. Ian says, anytime I've done a test, the full load has been held up for a fraud review. People do test transfers for peace of mind when in reality they can only create headaches because bank thinks it's possible fraud and sometimes hold back the points. I'm always afraid I'm going to type up, one number wrong and send it to Frank's account in Kentucky or something like that. Spaceco has arrived. How you doing, Spaceco? Thanks for being a diehard. Glad to see you. Condor flies out of the glorious Terminal 2 at Minneapolis. Come see the shop, eat at the restaurant, and chill with the folks flying Southwest. Does that mean I would not have access to the PGA lounge? Does Lufthansa have a lounge in MSP? Because I know they have a lounge sharing agreement. Ian says, I would not move the 450 until you can do some serious YouTube research on the carrier. Yuri says, move from Amex. You'll use them later. But you also need to pay a fee when transferring from Amex. This sucks. That's true, and you kind of read my mind. Rodrigo says, I transferred all my Amex points. No regrets. Spaco says, all the lounges is in Terminal 1, only at MSP. Well, that stinks. I have to go so early. Is it hard to change terminals? I can talk to you about that often. I don't need to. Do you in Minneapolis, Spaceco? I know one of my viewer diehards does. Is that you? I might need to ask him. Anyway, considerations. Fear of phantom award space. Well, phantom or just quickly disappearing award space. So I loaded it in my cart on the Alaska Airlines. It let me put it in my cart, but we all know, even though I've checked, a couple different places, I could probably log into Lufthansa and check there too. There's always that tiny chance, what if I do all this? I check 3 different independent sources and then I go to click the button. It's like, sorry. Either somebody else booked this 3 seconds ago or it was never there to begin with. Next consideration is that dumb excise tax. Yuri mentioned this. So Amex charges 6/100ths of a cent per point. So for me to move over, the remainder of the points I need would be about another $132. That's not the end of the world, but annoying, and I do need to take it into consideration. Other consideration, I'm 54,000 short, so I actually can't do it right now, even if I want to. So I would either have to wait for player two's business platinum bonus to post because she's working on business platinum right now. I've got one more major purchase, which should hit in the next, say, 10 days. And then it usually takes about 2 days for Amex to catch up. So I've got about 12 days of waiting here before I can do it. I don't know how often Barclays Hawaiian card posts points. Let me know if you do. But let's say the card comes in the mail on Monday. I make the one purchase. Is it going to post points 2 or 3 days later, or is it going to wait until the first statement closes, which is going to be a month down the road? So I don't have the ability to do both parts right now. I could do the outbound flights, but not the return flights, or I could do the opposite. Do I have permission to be off work? And this is kind of an interesting topic. So at my job, they're usually pretty flexible, but I do have to get permission to take off. And this would be a about 11 or 12 business days roughly. And that's a lot. They're okay with it. I have unlimited PTO, but it's actually limited to 6 weeks. It's something I've ranted on before. And that's okay. I can kind of put all my eggs in one basket and do one giant vacation and just stick with my normal 2 or 3 rip trips. But I sent my boss an email on Thursday afternoon, and by end of day yesterday, she had not yet responded. So I don't even know if I have permission to do this. That kind of goes hand in hand with a $12.50 partner booking fee per ticket per way. So we'd be talking $50 one way, $100 round trip, and that's non-refundable. So if you have to cancel, you get all your points back, you get your taxes and fees back, but you don't get that $12.50 back. $50, $100, not the end of the world. That's probably the price of doing business. It is something that I want to take into consideration. And then, is it worth it even if I can't book the return trip? So I don't have enough points to book the return trip right now, but I could book the trip on the way there. And then maybe I could be looking for like Virgin Atlantic and that kind of stuff for the way back and see how that goes. I don't know. Or do I book the return trip now? Because, that would also get around the lounge thing that Spaithco mentioned. I'm not going to fly into Minneapolis and just hang out in the lounge before driving home. So maybe it's more important to book the return trip first. What do you guys think? Let me go back a screen and catch up on comments to see what I missed here. Kid Kat says, are the terminals beyond security? Yuri says, it's okay. Alaska's very valuable anyway. Well, that kind of ties to that last point. Would it be worth doing even if I don't work this out? JP Knowledge says, book it now. If the dates work, the availability may vanish. The miles for the Hawaiian card may not hit the account immediately. It will take at least a month from today for the miles to be available. Okay, that answers the question about the Hawaiian personal card. Yuri says the maximum is $99. Okay, so if I don't do it, some from me and some from my wife, I think I did read that. You're talking about the excise tax. If I just wait until she gets her business platinum bonus, then move all 140,000 or whatever it was over, I would only pay $99. That's good to know. Terminals 1 and 2 are only connected by public light rail, not even remotely close to being connected to airside. Terminal 2 has cheaper parking. Okay, so we're talking no lounge access whatsoever. Hawaiian miles hit when the statement closes. Yeah, so I'm waiting at least a month to make the purchase, 3 or 4 days for it to post, 25 days or so for the statement to close. Sean D has arrived. Good morning. Glad to see you. Kid Cat says PTO isn't a request, it's a notification. Yeah, I could go into lots of details, but this was one of those things like if you're hourly, you have PTO and it's guaranteed. Now they might deny the dates, but you have it and they can't say no. I moved to salaried and it's technically not PTO. It's called like flexible time. Like, it's unlimited. Just ask your boss and we'll work with you. And then a year later they say, the rule of thumb is 6 weeks. And I don't have any sick pay or vacation pay, so that's everything. Moving along. So, as Yuri mentioned, even if it doesn't work out, even if Condor doesn't work out, there's good awards. So, like, I had heard people say Alaska is good for flying American short distance routes, I think under 750 miles, something like that. So, late last night, we're talking like my son had a football game, like after midnight last night. I looked up just a random example for, I think, someday in March. And here's a direct flight from Des Moines to Dallas and 4.5K miles. So 4,500 miles plus $19. If you think of like, I could have cashed that out. That's like $45 plus $20, $65 in economy. Well, what would that have cost? And I looked it up. That would have cost $367. So that's pretty amazing. You want to do the cents per point thing just for fun? 367 minus the $19 booking fee. Why is it $19? Oh, it'd be $550 plus their $12.50 partner booking fee. 13 plus 6, yeah, 19. Checks out. 348 divided by 4,500. That is 7.7 cents per point. That is pretty good. And then what if I wanted to go Business class, that would be $517. So that comes out to 5.5 cents per point. Not quite as good, but decent. So yeah, even if Condor doesn't work out, even if I don't know, who are the other people you can book through Alaska? There's a whole bunch. Even if I can't get any to work out, it's not like there's bad value just waiting for me. I've got other options. So, touchdown. That's the end of the main event. And here's where I ask you guys, what should I do? I got JP Knowledge's opinion. Said if the dates work for you, book them now. And I kind of agree with that. I know Luke gave some concern about Condor maybe not being awesome, and they're not as good as Lufthansa. They're not as good as Singapore, that's for sure. But it is a lie flat seat, and it's the exact place I want to go at the exact time I want to go. And with only 3 or 4 days of flexibility to wiggle in a 2-week vacation, that's probably more meaningful. So I think you're talking me into it, JP. But I would be glad to hear other opinions. If anyone has personally flown Condor, let me know. I will do some more searching to see if I can find other data points. I know my wife is like not able to sleep on a plane at all, even with a lie flat seat. So I think for her, being direct, not having to have a layover, not having to reposition would probably be a bigger deal. Although she appreciates a lie flat seat for the comfort that it affords. I also want to look around. I haven't done any exploration. Like if you use Alaska to book Condor, is the price the same or close to same if you fly onwards within Europe? Like let's say instead of maybe we don't want to go to Austria right away. We want to do that towards the end of our trip. You know, I want to go from Minneapolis to Frankfurt to Brussels, Belgium, or Minneapolis to Frankfurt to Göteborg, Sweden, or Minneapolis to Frankfurt to Wales, or something like that. John R is on board and says, book it ASAP. The other thing to consider is, like I said, a $12.50 partner booking fee. That's all I'm out. $50 basically for all 4 of us. Isn't that big of a deal? I mean, in this game of points out, $50 is almost more of a rounding error. So it's not like I couldn't bail out. I should probably book at least one of the directions right away. So that's another question. Which would you book first, the outbound flight or the return flight to America? Obviously, maybe we'll stay in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Liechtenstein the whole time, but maybe we'll want to go elsewhere in Europe. I'm not sure on that. All right, that's it. So stop sharing. We have ended the theme of the day. I hope you all enjoyed that. Thank you for the 50 people that are still on board. All right, well, you know what comes next, don't you, people? John says I would book getting there first. Getting there is priority number one. Good point. Mamma mia. Okay, some Condors don't have lie flat. They have angled lie flat. The information on both seats.aero and on the Alaska site said fully lie flat. I should probably go to the Condor site and pretend like I'm booking direct to verify that. Thank you for the information. Have you done it before, Ian, or are you just going off what other people have said? Let's take our intermission, also known as our biology break. I will disappear for about 90 seconds to 2 minutes. Please stay on board. We got lots of good stuff, I swear, as Krusty the Clown would say. We got some real great toy commercials. So if you get a commercial, just watch it because nothing's going to happen anyway. Otherwise, just stare at the back wall. Please hang in there. I would appreciate it. And be right back. I'm at intermission. Speaking of intermission, the Sound of Music has an intermission in it when you watch it. Did you know that? I think it's in German or French or Czechoslovakian or something. Ian Mascal says, "Here's to pooping," and dropped a $5 super chat. No, it was just a number one. Thank you, Ian. Celebrate. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Anybody else wants to celebrate bodily functions? Go right ahead. I would appreciate that. All right. Back to what we were asking before. I asked Ian, "Have you personally flown Condor?" And he says, "No, just YouTube videos. I haven't done it." Rodrigo says, "Is anybody doing a Hail Mary US bar application?" I don't know. Chad Pennycuff says, "If I didn't have one, I surely would." I don't get why people are naysayers. I got the same info he did from a legitimate source. Ooh. Rodrigo says, "I trust Stan. I'm going to apply." John R. says, "US Bank was going to be an end game card, but most likely not if it goes away. I just got approved for a different card. I'm doing a video once I get it. Otherwise, I might have." Chad Pennycuff says to unlock TransUnion. Hide all the Chase cards that don't post to TransUnion. Yep, I've heard of that. When I applied, I didn't do anything weird. I just applied and I was approved. Now, admittedly, as I've told the story before, when I was a child, there was a bank in Ottumwa called Union Bank, which was bought by First Star, which was bought by US Bank. So it shows me as having like a 40-year relationship with that bank. So they like me. So I had kind of an unfair advantage. All right, let's move on to the community tab questions. So every Friday, at least every Friday that I remember, I will post to the community tab on the not Facebook, on YouTube. And you can ask me anything, and I will read them and answer them on these live streams. But part of it is I also share a picture, and you are supposed to guess where that picture was taken. So I actually shared 3 pictures. This is the main one I wanted you to look at and think about and guess where that was. And then over here, I shared this picture and some sort of tall thing, and I shared this picture, which is a historical looking kind of building. Now, this one wasn't particularly difficult, but this picture here is probably the one I want you to focus in on.